Hello and welcome. This is Hassan. I own and run an agency called Bright Leads Media that's specialized in SEO and also email marketing, but our flagship service is SEO. And today I'm going to talk to you about how we were able to achieve crazy growth for a website in a very competitive niche without having to worry about building links. So it's 7,000% of increase in traffic, over a year. Let's get into it. All right, so the story here is we took a dying website, receiving less than 500 organic visits per month to, get more than 10,000. I can't really reveal the name of the website because we signed an NDA. I mean, it's too bad, but I would love to, share that with you. But seeing how competitive the industry is where this website operates, it's pretty hard to just like go out and review everything. But the good thing is I'm going to talk about the strategy that we followed by the letter, so you can actually learn a little bit about how we did it. All right, so all I can say literally about it is it's operating in the B2B events industry, and it's pretty competitive, as I said. All right, so we'll look at a few numbers here. I mean, we're going to compare November 2019 with November 2020, and we're also going to take a look at March 2021. All right, so November 2019, we were looking at an average daily visitors of about 775, sometimes a little less. In November 2020, the average daily visitors jumped to 1,300 visitors, and then fast forward to March 2021, the average daily visitors are in the 2,000 range, and it's still growing. It's really going really well. So the question here is, how did our team achieve these results? And we'll divide this by up to 4 parts. So the first one is SEO audit. We did an SEO audit. We did a content audit, and then we did content research strategy, or keyword research, as some other people are referring to it. And are we going to talk about links? That's the question. All right, so it all starts with a deep SEO audit. I mean, we like Ahrefs to run our audits, but you can always use tools like Screaming Frog, which is a desktop app, and then there's SEMrush, which is a web app almost like almost pretty much the same as Ahrefs. The difference is in just how many features you get with each one. So the audit helps us identify 2 major things: technical issues. We'll go in more detail later about those, and then on-page optimization issues. So Ahrefs usually gives you a health score. So the health score here is pretty much just how many links can see, how much of your website can Google see without any issues. So if you have broken links or broken pages or 500 server errors or 404 pages, Google will not, be able to see those pages, especially if there's also the issue of, duplicate pages without canonical. That's also something. If you have duplicate pages, they're not going to show up. So there's a lot of things that you have to do to be able to show all of your website on Google and not just have part of it. Or some pages are going to show up with errors like no meta descriptions, or just mumble jumble in the titles. So that's the thing. You want to have a clear technical setup that all the pages can be seen. There's a few things that we kind of look at, some major technical aspects. So we take a look at the hreflang. Hreflang is if you have a website, let's say if you have an e-commerce website or an affiliate website with different languages, and you want, the German part of your website to show to German people, to people in Germany. And if you want the Dutch part of your website to show to people in the Netherlands, or, or the French part, people in France and stuff like that. So the hreflang is something that has to be fixed. The canonical tags is what you put when you have issue with duplicate pages. So if you have, let's say you have a CMS in the system that kind of duplicates pages. So to you, it looks like a 1 page, but to Google, it looks like 5 pages. So you put those canonical tags so you can limit the number of duplicate issues. And when you do that, you tell Google to only consider one page out of the 5 that are showing up. And then we're talking about HTTP versus HTTPS, which means sometimes if you don't fix that, they fix a redirect between these 2 versions, you might end up showing 2 complete, copies of one website to Google. So you end up having a lot of issues. Speed. That's also something we look at. It's a technical issue now. It's considered a very, very much of an SEO thing, and not just people who run in ads. So the faster the website, the better. And then there's an indexability issue. If you have an indexability problems, if you're adding new pages to your website, adding new products to your e-commerce store, and they're not showing up, then you are gonna run into trouble. So you want to fix all of these things. The on-page optimization. What I've done here is I kind of put the on-page optimization issues separately from all the other technical stuff, because this is where it gets a little bit on the content side. This is where the technical developer person is going to be done, and this is where the SEO person is going to start their job, because they're going to have to know what title tags to put, what meta descriptions to put, what kind of keywords to put in the pages, so that what kind of keywords you want to compete for, what kind of keywords you want to show up for. So that's the thing with the on-page optimization. It's not just technical development stuff, not coding. It has to come into the content side of things, so you know exactly what kind of meta description to put, what kind of title tag to put. Because when we're talking about meta descriptions, a lot of people don't really consider them that much. They don't really put too much thought into them. So what they do is they basically just put random stuff. So you have to, the way I always think about it is you have to think of it as a Google ad or a Facebook ad. So you have to put in a really well thought out meta description that's going to ask people or push people to click. There's a CTR in there, or a call to action. A call to action, so you can increase your CTR in the search engine results page. Another part of the on-page optimization is fixing the on-page issues. And in order to do that, like whatever platform you're on, if you're on WordPress, we recommend Rank Math. So Rank Math is the best possible plugin that you can use. And for Shopify, there's SEO Manager. There's also a lot of other apps that you can use for Shopify. For BigCommerce, it's built in. For other platforms, the more technical it gets, probably you'll be better off just hiring an SEO savvy developer, and those are all over the place. You can find a lot of them. And if you need a developer, if you know anything about SEO, you could help out the developer fix your issues. But if you do have somebody who does SEO, you can actually pair them with the developer, and then they can fix all those issues without any problems. The second part is the content audit. So when you're done fixing all those issues, when you increase that Ahrefs health score, and you get rid of all the issues, you move on to auditing the content. So here's an example here. So let's say you have a website with 5,000 pages. And it has a low health score on Ahrefs, and from your analytics, you're getting organic traffic only to a few of the pages. So the 80-20 rule here doesn't really apply. It's more like the 95-5 rule, which I like to joke about a lot. So again, after fixing all the technical issues, we guarantee that you'll see an instant increase in organic traffic right after fixing these issues. The next part involves going through the keywords that your website is ranking for and which websites are bringing traffic. So this is how it usually looks like on Ahrefs. You get the volume, like how many people are searching for that keyword per month. The KD here refers to the keyword difficulty. And then you have the CPC, which basically just means how much people are paying for that specific keyword on Google Ads. When you take a look at the pages that are already bringing traffic, you want to pay closer attention to those pages. So what we do again is we keep checking on Google Search Console, Ahrefs or ACMrush, either one, plus analytics. So we compare the numbers from each one and see which keywords are bringing us the most traffic. Again, as I said, for the pages that are already bringing traffic, we treat them differently. those pages are already being treated well by the Google gods, as well, as we like to call them. So what we do is we try to benefit from that and send some of that. We call it love, but we can also call it link authority or link juice to those other pages that are not ranking by using the power of internal links. So internal links, are, simple things that you can put inside links from each page to another within your website. It's just like what Wikipedia is doing. Wikipedia, any paragraph that you're reading has a lot of hyperlinks to other pages on Wikipedia. And that actually helps them a lot by moving any authority from any specific page to other pages. So that other helps the other pages that are not ranking kind of move up in the rankings on Google and other search engines, obviously. So thinking about using the power of the pages that are already ranking and sending them some of that power to other pages. And you can do that. We're not, again, talking about just sidebar links or menu links, menus in the footer or the top or the side. It doesn't matter. It has to be in context, in article links that are using like specific anchor text. So the more of those you use, the more of that link juice you're gonna be spreading around your website. By talking about that, we're gonna move on to another thing, which is content optimization. So one of the advantages of working on SEO in 2021 is the availability of many tools that make our lives a lot easier. And here we're talking about content optimization tools that what they do is, the reason we're looking at Surfer SEO here is you basically just give Surfer SEO a keyword, any given keyword that you want to rank for, whether you already have content for it ready or you just want to create a new piece of content for it. So what you do is you give that to Surfer, and it goes out and analyzes the top 10 or the top 20 pieces that are ranking, and it gives you the averages, average word count, average number of images, average numbers of paragraphs. It gives you all the details that you have to follow exactly, so you can compete with the people who are already ranking. So it's basically just analyzes what Google already loves, what Google is already ranking, and it tells you, look, if you do this, if you follow these content guidelines, you have a better chance of ranking, and it gives you a specific score. And we'll look at that in a little bit. And we've done this a lot on this specific website, and actually helps. It moved from page 4, page 5, ranking on 40th position or 50th position, and it jump up to the first page. And again, here we haven't even touched or even talked about backlinks. All right. So this is, again, how the SEO content score kind of looks like. So it tells you you should aim for anything between 1,400 and 1,600 words. You should have between 13 and 16 headings. You should have between 4 and 5 paragraphs, and you should have anywhere between 3 or 4 images. And these are just the major things. You can go straight, scroll down and see even more of the words that you'd like to mention, so you can actually be competitive on them. And again, we used to do this back in the day. We're only talking about 5 years ago or 6 years ago. It took, hours and hours just to do this for one keyword, for one piece of content. And now you can basically do it in a split second with tools like Surfer SEO. There's other tools out there, but this is the one that we recommend. And it's, I'm not affiliated with these guys or anything. This is just that I'm talking about how this tool is helping us improve our scores, get better at what we do, get better results for us and for our clients. And it's just an amazing piece of tech. And this is the power of AI. It's 2021. There's a lot of things, that are very, very helpful. And looking at things, how they were done, back 10 years ago, it was a lot easier, obviously, to just rank. You could just put up a page and put up a few, paragraphs here and there, and you just optimize the meta tags and whatnot, and you're ranking. But things are a little bit more complicated. But again, SEO is here to stay, and that's why we invest in these things, and we spend all of this money and all this time and effort so we can actually get to the first pages of Google for some very, very valuable keywords. All right, so other than working on the existing content and optimizing it and, working on internal links, we also go out there and use, tools like Ahrefs and SEMrush to identify more opportunities to rank. Here we have something that I've learned over the years. If you have more pages, you have more traffic. You might have an issue if you only have like a one product store, if you're only selling one product, but that's not going to be an issue if you add in a blog. Let's say your product requires a little bit of knowledge to set up, knowledge to maintain, so you can actually add in a blog to your website, so you can add information, and people might actually, who are in the research phase looking up information about your product, might stumble upon your blog and then might end up buying from you by you having a blog with a lot of call to action, buttons, or an email opt-in form. So you can do a lot by adding a blog. You can gain more, you do more sales, and you can get more leads from your blog. So that's the thing. What we do is we go out, we look for keywords that might seem to be a little bit less competitive. We always go for the low-hanging fruit. The low-hanging fruit here is less competitive keywords that might have good numbers or average numbers of searches. Again, this depends on your industry. Numbers might not be something that matters to you. If you're in a B2B space and you sell high ticket offer, a service or a product or anything, you could do with just 50, leads per month. And if you're gonna just be targeting a keyword with 100 searches per month, and you can capture 25% of that by ranking number one and duplicating that on other keywords, you might end up getting to that 50 leads per month that you'd like to get to, or even more. Because again, it's not really a numbers game here, because we're not doing social media. We're not selling low end tickets, or even if you're like working in a space that is not allowed to run ads, like the CBD space, for instance. If you're selling CBD or any product like that, you can't run ads, obviously. So all you can do is work on SEO. So by knowing how valuable SEO is, you put in so much of the effort. All right, so the last part of this is backlinks. And when we talk about backlinks, we always say, I'm not really saying that they're not important. They're extremely important. The backlinks are the backbone still, even in 2021, of how Google ranks websites. But then again, you don't really need them when you're starting out. You don't need them. What you need is to build a foundation, fix all the technical problems on your website, work on the content, the quality of it, and also the technical side, like the optimization of those contents. When we're talking about how many images, how many words, how many times you're going to basically be talking about that specific keyword. There's a lot of things to consider before jumping onto the backlinks bandwagon. Backlinks are crazy. And it's their own, separate world. We can go ahead and have a 3-hour, 4-hour presentation just about backlinking and how many strategies are out there and which ones are going to work for you and which ones are you going to decide to use or decide to kind of utilize to get those backlinks. But then again, so many parts of your website are going to be able to rank without having to have a lot of backlinks. When you start building that, high quality content that's well optimized, you're going to start gaining traffic or gaining backlinks organically. This happens a lot to us. We do still build backlinks, using guest posting, using skyscraper strategy, broken link building, podcasts. We jump on podcasts sometimes, or we ask some of our clients to jump on podcasts, because that's also considered a really, really good backlink building strategy. There's a lot of things you can do to gain backlinks. There's PR, like, press release distributions. Those are also really good. I think there's about 5 or 6 that are viable link building strategies that you can use. But again, my point here is, do not worry about them, at least for the first 3 months, 4 months, until you're done with your content strategy, or at least it's being built. The technical stuff is taken care of, and you're already ranking and you're already seeing it, because you don't want to invest in backlinks until you see that what you're doing is already working and you're not just wasting your time and your money. Again, SEO is very complicated, but when you split it into a number of aspects, which ones to focus on. So that's my 2 cents for this presentation. I hope this was helpful in any way. Available for questions as well. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter just by looking up my name. And I'm always available if you guys have any questions. I hope this was useful to you, and thank you again so much.
Thank you so much, Hassan. We're back by the pool bar here in Marbella. Sorry to rub it in. But I wanted to pick up actually on something from the last couple of slides there. You talked about podcasts and also PR, so press release distribution, as being something that right now is really good for building SEO. Are there any other tips like that? And also, how do you find out about these things? I guess it's just trial and error, isn't it? That that's what's in vogue at the moment.
Can you hear me just fine? Okay. So the way kind of I didn't want to spend so much time talking about link building, because that's a whole separate conversation, separate presentation by itself, because it's a completely different world on its own. The way you do is basically just kind of follow, I'd say them the pioneers of the industry, because there's so many people out there who are trying new things, especially people who have like direct access to a lot of websites, whether their own websites or clients' websites. So they get to like play around with different kinds of strategies that are working. So the idea behind finding out about podcasts, for instance, that's something you kind of read about in the Twitterverse. If you're in Twitter, that's where most of the SEO folks are active, and they're pretty generous over there about sharing like what's working and what's not working. So that's the thing. You do get to just get a feel for what's working, what's not working, and then you obviously, because we have an agency, but we're not huge. We're not like operating 100 or 200 websites. We're operating about 25 to 30 websites on any given time. So we don't get to have access to like a lot of data, so we can play around with. So that's why you have to kind of rely on people kind of sharing courses, or just people sharing live case studies as they're going. And as I said, Twitter is the best place. And there's also a few names out there that you can just follow, that we follow on. There's Glenn Alsop, there's Brian Dean, there's a lot of other folks who are not as well known, especially on Twitter, who kind of shares many of these strategies that are working for them. And also what we do is we kind of read about something and we try it. We try it for a month or 2, it works, that's good. If it doesn't work, then we move on to something else.
How do you go about I mean, you said you didn't want to talk about backlinks, but I'm just going to prod a little bit more. How do you go about, if you've got a new product or service, finding somebody who actually wants to create that backlink? Is it just a numbers game that you've got to email as many people as you can, or is there some sort of quality involved in that? I always remember edu addresses seem to rank quite highly, didn't they? So if you get an academic or somebody at a university to write about you, that's better than just your average person.
Okay, so what we do is, for instance, everything, almost every link building strategy involves outreach of some kind, cold email, or so we rely a lot on tools like Sales Handy or Mailshake or Lemlist, or any of those tools that salespeople kind of use to do outreach, to either sell stuff. For us, it's mostly just to get backlinks, and it's almost as hard It's a hard thing to ask for. Not as hard as a sale, but you have to be convincing. You have to offer something in return, because not everybody's going to want to link back to you. So there is a quality there. Quality has to be there. If it's not something worthy of sharing, people are not going to be interested. And even opening your email, replying to you. So that's why you always think of it in a way as you become more of a PR person. And try to find something that's worthy of sharing. And even when you ask for a share, you have to do it in a way that's not very in your face, very pushy, very salesy. Just like, so we have this. If it's useful to that specific person, that specific business, that specific website, then they're not gonna be out, saying no. They're not gonna refuse. So it's a little bit of both. Whatever you share, whether it's an article, whether it's an infographic, whether it's anything that's useful. I mean, you did mention the EDU, the scholarship. There was a scholarship kind of thing that we did that back in like 5 years, 6 years ago, but it's not working anymore. Kind of Google caught up to the masses and kind of started not giving enough value to .edu backlinks. So it's making it harder for the people who just had one strategy, one kind of tactic that worked, and you kind of become a little bit put in a hard position where you have to think a little bit outside the box. It's almost like selling something. I know you're not selling; you're just trying to get backlinks, but you have to be as creative and asking people and making them kind of say yes to your request.
Well, I guess moving on from that, for me, with we're running a live streaming business. For us, it's all about Google. And I want to start there. Is it just all about Google, or should I be making much more of an effort with Bing and with other platforms as well?
So the thing with Google is we know it's about a little over 90% of the market share. So most of what we do is for Google, to please Google. And thankfully, Bing is not as demanding, it's not as strict. So what we do when we do the basic on-page optimizations and do all the basic work that with technical issue fixes for the website, what works for Google pretty much works for Bing. So if a website is getting maybe like 10,000 visitors, in almost every case, especially if they're from the US or from Europe, for instance, you're gonna have a specific percentage of people coming in from Bing. That means whatever you do actually kind of works for both. And that's a good thing.
So in terms of where Google are going next, because there have been some changes recently, what kind of is your speculation on that, or is your advice still to write quality content and kind of move through the process that you've outlined? I mean, are we going to have any surprise changes, do you think, that we need to be thinking about?
I mean, as of today, we're actually still going through a lot of changes, like since May, and we've been kind of like suffering the last few months with a few of our clients, and some of our own websites. We've like seen a downward trend, and we don't know what's happening for a lot of these cases, because we've never really had, up until 2021, we've never really done any black hat or any gray hat link building or PPNs or any of that stuff. We've never used it, so we were never really worried. But this time, it's kind of hitting a little hard, and we still don't know what is causing like some of these downward trends. We're looking at a secret, literally, that's what a secret update that happened in late May, and then there's a big core update that was split into two between June and July, and the second part just started like yesterday. And then there's a speed update, which they call the page experience. That means if your website is a little bit sluggish, doesn't work well, you might lose your traffic that you're already receiving. So there's a lot of things going on, especially these last few months, and we've kind of seen that. These changes are a little bit scary to a lot of people, especially when you start seeing yourself losing traffic. But again, I'm not really worried at the end of the day, because we've never really done anything wrong. What we do is eventually all the technical stuff, we do that, all the on-page optimization, we do it. Quality content is there. We don't do any fishy or shady link building tactics or anything of the sort. So at the end of the day, we're not worried. We'll just keep watching the SERPs, keep watching traffic, and in a lot of ways, we end up, gaining at the end of it. There might be some volatility that happens during these changes, and there's a lot of them obviously now, and that's kind of nerve-wracking for a lot of people, but I wouldn't really worry about it. If you're not really doing anything that's obviously wrong, then I don't think you should have to worry about these changes, as long as you think of the user first. That's basically all of what Google is doing. If you have an affiliate blog, if you have an e-commerce store, whatever it is that you have, if you're doing things right and you're thinking of the user first. I know these don't seem like tactics or techniques. That's a lot of people they've been used to, but now we're basically just talking about thinking of the user experience first.
So one of the questions I've got for you, and this is quite a generic one, but it comes up a lot. When you're choosing an SEO agency, because I think for those of us, I know enough about SEO to be dangerous, but it's not my main kind of area of expertise. And I'm hit by so many people saying, we can do your SEO, we can do your SEO. What should you look for in a good SEO agency? What questions should you be asking?
Okay. Well, I'm a little bit biased. I'm gonna say my agency is the best, but yeah, the thing is, the way, if you're looking for an agency, specifically if you have a project big enough that you can afford an agency that you can actually work with them for a while. First of all, you have to be ready. Do you have the budget? Do you have the timeline for that budget? Because it's going to take time, obviously. What I would look for is somebody who can take the lead, for your project and be there and be proactive. So you want to look for an account manager or a person within that agency that's going to be there for you to answer your questions and come up whenever there's something wrong. And obviously what we do here over at my agency is we do emphasize reporting and communication. So we always try to schedule calls within every couple of weeks. We try to send as many reports as possible with task reports like metrics and KPIs. So that an agency is good if they have all of these things covered. The communication is good, other than the work, because everybody's going to be doing the work. If they know how to report on what they're doing, then you should be in good hands. And you want to look at people who have done it before. You might want to look at their previous work and see what kind of websites they've been able to help, and just to get a feel for it. Get a feel for the way they communicate, because I think communication is the biggest issue, and that's why a lot of people either lose clients, or some clients kind of lose faith in these agencies because they're either having too much, they're having issues communicating, and sometimes they might be doing a good job, they just don't really communicate. They just don't tell you what's going on. So that's the thing. Other than the work itself, you just have to have somebody to communicate with, to talk to in case something goes wrong. And obviously on a different level, you want to see if they have in-house developers who can help. It's just one person, because I know a lot of people confuse an agency with just a freelancer. Because I've had people talk to me and they said, oh, I've had this developer, this SEO guy, but it doesn't make sense if there's just one guy. Because when I take on a client, I have at least 3 or 4 people working on the project, not just one SEO, because you have to have a developer who's going to help them fix all of this, and the SEO person is going to look at all the content. And we have other people, junior people, who help with all the tasks, the little tasks that are done on the site and stuff like. And again, platform familiarity. If they're familiar with Shopify, if they're familiar with WooCommerce, if they're familiar with WordPress, with any kind of platform, and if they're good in terms of consulting with you, as in we have a lot of people coming in, we've had this website built on this platform and it's outdated, and I say, you know what, we're not going to be able to work on this. I'd rather have you go completely migrate this website and go somewhere else to a different platform that's going to make it easier for us and make it easier for you, so you won't have any tech debt, is what they call it, as in you're going to have a lot of issues moving. If you stay on this platform for another 5 years, it's going to be a huge issue to move it to a different platform. So it's just general savviness and good communication is what people need to look for.
Yeah, definitely relate to the tech debt issue. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Hassan, that's all we've got time for. Just finally, tell us again how people can get hold of you. What's your Twitter handle, as soon as you mentioned Twitter?
Yeah, you could just, my name is right there. You could just look me up on Twitter, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, anywhere. I'm everywhere, and I'm usually available. If you guys like DM me on Twitter or send me a message on LinkedIn, I'm usually available for whatever questions. And I try to share as much, like value out there as possible.
Well, we appreciate you sharing the value today. Hassan, thank you very much. Fantastic presentation.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
From day one, Crack Revenue's tagline has been, "Follow the whale." 10 years later, it's truer than ever. Unlike most CPA networks, we test all of our top offers using our designers, media buyers, and analysts to make sure the funnel is working and that the offer is more than profitable. Then we share the recipe with our affiliates. Simply put, Crack Revenue is made for affiliates by affiliates. It's the whole idea behind Follow the Whale. That way, everybody wins.